once you have many people doing something, you have lots of competition and little differentiation. And so in the real estate space, everybody looks the same, everybody sounds the same. But the second thing is it just sounds ridiculous when everybody is reading from the same script. And so I want to play a clip for you as a demonstration of this point. And so if you listen to President Obama's speech on ISIS this past week, before he was even done with his speech, and some right after he was done, the media went wild. They began to release their commentary, and let's just see if I can get this soundbite in here. You're gonna hear everybody sounds the same. They're saying the same phrase. So let me see if we can play a soundbite here. Never done this before. Let's see if it works.
The president has been described as a very reluctant warrior.
It was a remarkable moment for a reluctant warrior.
This reluctant wartime president.
A reluctant war president.
This is a president, although a very reluctant warrior.
A war-weary American, a reluctant president.
He's a reluctant warrior.
A reluctant warrior than one who's seeking combat.
A very reluctant warrior.
Come across as a reluctant warrior.
Reluctant, as is a reluctant warrior.
This reluctance, that he's doing this reluctantly.
I don't think there's any question of his reluctance.
Reluctant leader who's reluctant to go to war.
He's a very reluctant warrior.
He's deeply reluctant.
He's gotten turned tonight from being that reluctant warrior to being an actual warrior against ISIS.
Now, that's the news media, but you can hear when everybody says the same thing, just how ridiculous it sounds. If I were in that business, I would want to say something unique. I would want to say something different. I would want to come up with a description that nobody else had. Now, you might be curious like I am about this. Is it a coincidence that all of these news commentators, all of these journalists, came up with the exact same phrase, reluctant warrior? I mean, you heard it. They all said the exact same phrase, reluctant warrior. He's a reluctant president going to war. And most real estate agents, see, they say the same thing. I want to be different. I don't want to be like everybody else. And yet, they allow themselves to be manipulated to be just like everyone else. The guru party, they're the little puppeteer. They got the strings, and they're pulling them. And they're telling the words what to put in their mouth. And they're conditioning them what to say. And they're literally dictating how they're supposed to act. And so this is why I say you should study politics, because there are a lot of parallels here. The question becomes is where did all these journalists get that phrase? And so I wrote an article for Direct Marketing Insider, which is a paid publication distributed by one of Dan Kennedy's companies. It goes out to about 800 top direct response marketers, copywriters, and thought leaders. And let me see if I can find it here. And the one phrase that you find that they use a lot in politics is propaganda. And so this comes from a book written by Edward Bernays. It was Propaganda, first published in 1928. He writes, and this is where you're going to find a little bit different in the vernacular. Those who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses, it is they who pull the wires which control the public mind, who harness old social forces and contrive new ways to bind and guide the world. What he's saying here is you can get people to do exactly what you want them to do, like puppets. And so Democratic think tanks, Republican think tanks, they have the quote-unquote thought leaders. They figure out the talking point, how best the word is going to portray Obama. They then pass it down to the media, and the media spews it out. Now, if you ask most of these journalists, they're going to tell you, oh, I think for myself, I'm a free thinker, I'm independent, I have my own opinions. This montage proves otherwise. And it's ridiculous. You heard it. 20 different people all saying the same thing. Now, Peter Thiel, founders of different companies, they come to him and they want him to invest his millions of dollars into their idea. Any chance when they all show up and say the same thing, he says, absolutely, let me write the check. So why does this same thing happen in real estate? You have the guru party out there, the coaches, the brokers, the trainers. They're all giving you the exact same scripts and dialogues. So I have a stack of them right here. Okay, so I have a stack of them. I have Keller Williams. You can go online. You can search these out. I'm not going to mention the gurus' names. I don't want any kind of defamation. I'll only mention a few of the big franchises. So Prudential, I got Century 21. If you flip through these, they're all identical. They're all telling you to call to see if the seller's home is still on the market, if he's still thinking about selling it, to tell him that they might have a buyer. Why would Peter Thiel, why would a client invest in your company if you were to sound exactly alike? And the sad part is, not enough agents see what they're doing and how they're sabotaging themselves.